They laughed when she walked on stage. They said her voice wasn't good enough. But when Sarah Johnson stepped up to that microphone with nothing but a broken heart and a dream that everyone had given up on, she had no idea she was about to deliver a performance that would change music history forever. This is the story of a small-town girl who turned her pain into the most powerful voice America had ever heard. Sarah Johnson was 19 years old, working double shifts at a Nashville diner, sleeping on her friend Emma's couch. 3 years of rejection from every record label in Music City. Her demo CDs thrown in trash cans. Her dream slowly dying with every thanks, but no thanks email. But tonight was different. Tonight was the underground music competition at the Blue Moon Café. Winner gets a recording contract. Loser goes home with shattered dreams. Sarah had saved every tip for months just to afford the $50 entry fee. Standing in the back alley behind the cafe, Sarah was about to give up. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was hoarse from working the breakfast shift, and her guitar had a broken string she couldn't afford to replace. That's when she heard it. Through the thin walls, another contestant was performing. Jessica Martinez, the favorite to win. Perfect pitch, professional training, Nashville royalty. Everything Sarah wasn't. Sarah closed her eyes and remembered why she started singing in the first place. It wasn't for fame or fortune. It was because music was the only language that could express what her heart felt when words weren't enough. She thought about her grandmother, Rose, who raised her in small-town Georgia. Rose used to say, "Baby girl, your voice isn't just sound. It's your soul speaking, and souls don't lie." Rose had passed away 6 months ago, leaving Sarah with nothing but a beaten-up guitar and a promise. "Don't you dare let this world silence your song, Sarah Johnson." Sarah opened her eyes. The broken guitar string didn't matter. The hoarse voice didn't matter. The empty bank account didn't matter. What mattered was that she had something to say, and tonight, the world was finally going to hear it. She walked into that cafe like she owned the stage. The crowd barely looked up from their drinks. To them, she was just another small-town girl with big dreams and no talent. But when Sarah adjusted the microphone and looked out at the crowd, something shifted. She wasn't performing for them anymore. She was performing for Rose. For every night Rose sat on the porch, listening to Sarah sing while fireflies danced in the Georgia twilight. She started with a song she'd written the night Rose died. No fancy production, no backup singers, just her voice and that beat-up guitar with 5 strings. The first note cut through the noisy cafe like lightning through darkness. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Drinks paused halfway to lips. Even the bartender stopped washing glasses. Sarah sang about loss, about dreams deferred, about the courage it takes to keep believing when everyone else has stopped believing in you. Her voice cracked on some notes, but those cracks weren't mistakes. They were truth. They were real. They were everything that perfect, polished performances weren't. By the second verse, grown men were wiping away tears. By the chorus, the entire cafe was silent, except for her voice echoing off the walls. And by the bridge, something magical was happening. The audience wasn't just listening. They were feeling. Every person in that room was remembering their own broken dreams, their own late-night doubts, their own moments when they almost gave up on what mattered most. But here's where the story gets incredible. Halfway through a performance, Sarah's remaining guitar strings started snapping, one by one. Most performers would have stopped, apologized, walked off stage in embarrassment. Not Sarah. She kept singing. When the last string snapped, she put the guitar down and sang a cappella. Her voice, raw and powerful, filled every corner of that cafe. She wasn't just performing anymore. She was testifying. The final note hung in the air for what felt like forever. Then silence. Complete, overwhelming silence. Until one person started clapping. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire cafe was on their feet, applauding like they'd witnessed something sacred. But the real magic happened next. In the back of the cafe sat Marcus Williams, the most successful music producer in Nashville. He'd come to scout Jessica Martinez, the expected winner. Instead, he'd just witnessed something he hadn't seen in 20 years of music business. Authenticity. Real, Raw, undeniable talent that couldn't be manufactured or marketed. Talent that came from the soul, not from a studio. After Sarah's performance, Marcus approached her backstage. She was sitting alone, still shaking from the adrenaline, still processing what had just happened. "Sarah," Marcus said quietly, "I've been in this business for 2 decades. I've worked with Grammy winners, platinum artists, legends. But what you just did up there, that wasn't performance. That was a revelation." Sarah looked up at him, still not believing what she was hearing. Marcus continued, "The music industry is full of perfect singers with nothing to say. You're the opposite. You're a storyteller with a voice that makes people feel something real. That's not teachable. That's not manufacturable. That's a gift." But here's what happened next that nobody expected. Sarah didn't immediately say yes to Marcus's offer. Instead, she asked him a question that would change both of their careers forever. "Marcus," she said, "I appreciate this opportunity, but I need to know something. Are you offering me a chance to be myself? Or are you offering me a chance to be what you think will sell?" Marcus had never been asked that question before. In his world, artists were products to be shaped, molded, packaged for mass consumption. But something about Sarah's question made him realize he'd been doing music all wrong. "Sarah," he said after a long pause, "I want to help you be more yourself than you've ever been. The world needs your voice, not some polished version of it." That conversation led to something unprecedented in Nashville. Instead of signing Sarah to a traditional record deal, Marcus became her creative partner. Together, they created a new model for authentic music in an industry obsessed with perfection. Sarah's first album was recorded in the same cafe where she performed that night. No fancy studio, no auto-tune, no artificial enhancements. Just Sarah, her guitar, and songs that came from the deepest parts of her heart. The album was called Broken Strings, Whole Heart. The title track was the song she performed that night, guitar breaks and all. Music critics said it would never succeed. Radio programmers said it was too raw, too real for mainstream audiences. They were all wrong. Broken Strings, Whole Heart became the fastest-selling debut album in country music history. But more importantly, it started a movement. Artists across every genre began embracing authenticity over perfection. The music industry began valuing story over spectacle. Sarah's success wasn't just personal. It was revolutionary. But the most incredible part of this story happened a year later. Sarah was performing at the Grand Ole Opry, the same stage that had rejected her 3 years earlier. Sold-out crowd, standing ovation, everything she'd ever dreamed of. During her encore, Sarah did something that brought the house down. She pulled out her old guitar, the same one from that night at the Blue Moon Café. She'd had it repaired, but she'd kept one string intentionally loose. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said to the crowd, "success isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to be broken and beautiful at the same time." She played that loose string, and it made a sound that wasn't quite right, wasn't quite perfect, but it was real. And in that moment, 15,000 people understood something profound about music, about life, about the courage it takes to be authentically yourself in a world that demands perfection. Today, Sarah Johnson is 25 years old. She's won 4 Grammy Awards, sold millions of albums, and inspired countless artists to choose authenticity over artifice. But if you ask her about her greatest achievement, she'll tell you it's not any of those accolades. Her greatest achievement is the letter she received last month from a teenage girl in Ohio named Lily Patterson. Lily wrote, "Sarah, I was about to give up on my dreams of becoming a singer because everyone said I wasn't good enough. Then I heard Broken Strings, Whole Heart, and I realized that being good enough isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. Thank you for showing me that my voice matters, even when it's not perfect." That letter sits framed in Sarah's home studio, right next to a picture of her grandmother Rose. Because Sarah learned something that night at the Blue Moon Café that changed everything. Your voice doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It just needs to be yours. The music industry tried to tell Sarah that her voice wasn't polished enough. Her story wasn't marketable enough. Her style wasn't commercial enough. But Sarah discovered something that every artist, every dreamer, every person with a message needs to understand. The world doesn't need another perfect voice. The world needs your voice. Cracks and all, breaks and all, truth and all. Because authenticity isn't a marketing strategy. It's a superpower. It's what separates artists from performers, leaders from followers, legends from forgotten names. Sarah Johnson's story isn't just about singing. It's about the moment when you stop trying to be what everyone else wants you to be and start being who you were born to be. It's about understanding that your greatest strength isn't your perfection. It's your willingness to be perfectly imperfect. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your truth matters. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. The stage is waiting. The microphone is ready. Your moment is here. Stop waiting for permission to be yourself. Stop waiting for approval to share your gift. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to start your journey. Your broken strings might be exactly what the world needs to hear. Your imperfect voice might be the perfect message someone else needs to receive. Because legends aren't born when everything goes right. They're born when everything goes wrong, and they choose to sing anyway. The Blue Moon Café is still open in Nashville. Sarah performs there once a month, reminding herself and her audience that greatness doesn't come from perfect performances. It comes from perfect courage. Your cafe is waiting. Your audience is ready. Your song is needed. What are you waiting for? Sing your truth. The world is listening.